Welcome to the Echelon Racing League. This is not normal racing for me. We're going indoors. I actually have a broken collarbone. You might have seen it in my last video where I did a gravel race and broke my collarbone, so I am on the trainer for a while. Here we are, starting the time trial, day one, and that's a frozen screen. I had a small issue here. The game froze. I got a virtual flat tire and I got kicked out of the race, I suppose. Sierra was here next to me, continuing to motor on. She got first in the women's race. There she is. I got back into it a little bit later. They actually allowed me to do the race again. So the good thing about these races is you can just put the course right back in and then you can redo it. League off for me with a little bit harder time trial, and I haven't been training a bunch because broken collarbone. So we're getting back into this time trial. Started off kind of hot, but it is the Gila time trial. Tour of the Gila has this TT, usually about 30 to 40 minutes long. You can tell me at the top of the hill going just as hard as I possibly can. And it is not an easy race. I actually did switch to a time trial bike. I don't know if it changes anything, but I came through the finish here just under 39 minutes. Just over 38 minutes. This said first place, but I actually did finish first place in the time trial. There was about 8 people who did the time trial, I think. German guy, Ludwig, and Luke, who's on Project Echelon. Echelon hosts this racing league. And this is the stage race weekend, the second weekend, and the second day is a road race. You can tell I started off a little too late here, so had to jump on my trainer super quick after getting the carbs fuel gels out, and then jumped into the race. This guy, Adam Carr, was off the front when unexpectedly, he actually, I think, also had a virtual flat, let's call it, and he just disappeared from the game. Seems like virtual racing is kind of plagued with this kind of stuff. And then there were 3 of us back here. You can tell I'm going somewhat easy, but it's a pretty hard race, and I am not in great shape right now, so I'm just trying to save it as much as possible for the end. I know these guys are probably going to be better climbers than I am, but for recovery, let's pause real quick. I have been using the PRUNGO FlexGo. You might have seen this on my channel. This is a quick little advertisement for them. Here is the PRUNGO FlexGo. It is a red light therapy device, and it has helped a lot with pain reduction. You can see they have a few different modes. I usually just go on the strong mode, and then you hit the power button, and it does a little light thing. You can put them on your collarbone. They do come with you see it there. They do come with straps that you can attach on to various different locations. You may have seen that in my other videos too, but they do help kind of reduce the pain, and I've been jumping to them quite a lot. I know resting is probably the biggest thing you can do for injury. They have 660 nanometer LED technology and 850 nanometer, which are 2 bands that are associated with recovery in the scientific research right now. They're focused LEDs, and they use proprietary lenses to prevent energy scattering. So they're focused, they help out a bunch, and I've been using them on my collarbone, which I broke. That's why I'm on the trainer in the first place when it's like 70 degrees outside. I just keep having these weird little injuries, so having something like this in my toolbox of recovery has been super helpful. Let's jump back into day 2 here. The 3 of us were riding pretty hard here, and we got to this one little peak right before 40 kilometers in, and I decided it was a good time for my first attack. So I lit it up pretty well. These 2 guys responded, but I had a little bit of a gap, so I kept pushing hard, hoping I had a little gap by the beginning of the climb. Unfortunately, Martin here, he was able to jump onto my wheel, and I just kept the pace on until we got to the top of this climb, hoping I would break him as much as possible. I'm still on the time trial bike because I forgot to switch my bike. I'm not really sure if it helps at all in Training Peaks Virtual, but there's no mass start rules because it doesn't matter. You're not gonna be unsafe riding a time trial bike in a bunch, so didn't matter. Just looked cool. Just looked fast. I got a little bit of a gap on Martin at the base of this climb. He caught back on that little descent, and I just pushed as hard as I possibly could up this first little embankment. You can see we're 9-10% gradients at the beginning here, and I'm just going to pace it the best I can. You can see my cadence is also quite low in this video on the top left, and that is because I'm trying to get some intervals in. I know I have a good gap, hoping it stretches out a little bit here early and my lack of endurance doesn't catch up with me. But I'm using these little uphill gradients to do some high torque intervals. It's the right time of year for those. So hitting some lower cadence, some higher torque, trying to stay around my threshold for these. And we get to the end and I have a big old gap on the next place, which is great news for my stage race placing. So I'm leading the virtual tour of the Gila. After this stage, there is a crit the next day. So I'll be covering that in a separate video because that one's a little bit more exciting, being a little closed course, but it's kind of video gaming mixed with bike racing, which is pretty interesting. I've done a lot of these and they definitely help with your fitness. These are live streamed, so it's pretty cool if you want to watch live, but finished the second day first with a good little gap on everybody else jumping into the crit.